Welcome to Inside Texas Football. This is On the Horn, episode 6. We are back again. I hope everyone had a great weekend. I did too. I was out actually at Junior Day 2026, which was really fun with the great Justin Wells and Charlie Williams. Charlie will be joining us to talk about Junior Day and some of the recruiting intel. But that was a really fun experience, my first recruiting event. I'm wearing glasses today. Thankfully, Justin is not coming on. The last time I wore glasses on an Inside Texas show, he had some expletives followed with the word nerd to describe me. But tonight we're going to have Charlie on. Then we'll get to some calls. We've got a loaded show. I don't care that it's the off season. We don't believe in that around here at Inside Texas Football, especially not on the Horn. So we're going to talk all sorts of fun stuff, get into a list that was released by Fox Sports, their top 10 CFB teams since 2000. Talk about the boy right there, Vince Young, and that team, and talk about Junior Day. As I mentioned, On3's top 25 players came out. They released that list for 2025, and then I'm going to get into some top 25, or not top 25, 2025 impact players for Texas. And then a fun one from On3 was ESPN actually, their early college football playoff bracket for next year. And it had some eye-popping teams seated ahead of Texas and some interesting picks early for 2026 college football playoff. But yeah, to start, guys, I'm going to go ahead and show you what I want to talk about here. We've got the top 10 teams since 2000. And at number one, of course, is 01 Miami. I'm not going to sit here and argue that. But at number two, it's 2003 and 4 USC. And then at number three, probably everyone's favorite Texas team of all time, it's Vince Young and that great team with Jamal Charles and Mac Brown's national championship team. So, I mean, just to start, I'm going to go ahead and talk about Texas because I think they are underrated on this list. I think it's blasphemy to put 2021 and 2022 Georgia, who couldn't even beat Alabama, right behind Texas. And then to talk about USC, because Texas beat that USC team, obviously. I got into it with a guy on Instagram in the comments of this post. I commented that, having 2019 LSU at 5 was a joke, and he was a Georgia fan. And, we got into it a little bit. I had to bring up the Alabama score and how, they only won because Jamison Williams and Mechie were out. But, yeah, I mean, the other ones, I think you can argue 2001 Miami. They had 38 NFL players. But people forget that 2005 Texas team was dominant. I forget because I was like 4 years old, but I remember in hindsight because, like many of you, I went to the co-op store as a kid with my dad and my brothers, and we bought the 2005 National Championship DVD, and we watched it 5 times over like it was a movie. I mean, when I was 8 years old, that and The Blind Side I would just watch on repeat. 2 of my favorite football movies. One was, both were real. But one, was the actual game, which was, I loved watching that game. So to get into 2005 Texas, because this is what we do in the offseason. This is what people do. They sit around the water cooler at the lunch table with their friends, and they talk about, no, this team's better than this team. Will we ever know the answer? No, but I would have loved to see 2001 Miami play against 2005 Texas. But 2005 Texas beat number 4 Ohio State on the road. They beat number 10 Texas Tech, number 24 Colorado twice. Once was 70-3 in the Big 12 title. I didn't even know that was allowed. I mean, legal murder on television against poor Joel Klatt. Joel Klatt's a Fox Sports guy, friend of the program. We'll just say that. It's not true, but maybe one day you got to manifest it. But he works at Fox Sports. I think he's got to remember how good 2005 Texas was. He was the quarterback of Colorado when they lost 70-3. I mean, that was just an absolute massacre. I've watched highlights of that. I mean, it's crazy to get into a conference championship game and beat a team 70-3. But yeah, I mean, the Texas team of 05 was so dominant. They actually had a 34-point differential. Like in their average games, they beat teams by 34 points. They scored 50 points a game and gave up 16. That actually was better than the 01 Miami team. I'm not going to argue that they're better than the 01 Miami team. I actually like them as my second favorite team or best team in the 2000s. But, yeah, I mean, that Texas team was beating everybody. They haymakered pretty much everyone they played. and by a lot. And then if they were ranked number 2 wire to wire from start to finish. And then, of course, we know finished number 1. They ended USC's 34-game win streak, which is why I just think it's a little audacious of them to put that same USC team ahead of them. And to get into that USC team, if you remember, they claim a 2003 national title. See, it's up there. It says 2003 and 2004. But in 2003, they actually lost to an 8-win Cal Berkeley team and still claimed a national title. So, I mean, I just think you can't put a team that didn't actually win the national title. In the BCS, they had a national championship game. This isn't like the 1960s when you just claim a title because one media outlet said you won it. But yeah, I mean, that USC team, I don't think should be ahead of Texas on the fact that they beat that exact team. And also, people forget the Texas run because we just talk about the title team. And I think people a lot of times talk about the Vince Young title team as like this one-hit wonder. They won the Rose Bowl the year before, and they also went 11-1. Their one loss was to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma only lost in the national championship game that year. So, I mean, I think it's Miami 1, like just ahead of everyone with those 38 NFL players. But then I think you got to put Texas at 2. Like, and if you're an older fan, like feel free to call in, or if you remember 05 well, I'm sad that I was too young for that. The first teams I kind of remember were Colts Fiesta Bowl and then Colt losing after he got hurt. But yeah, I mean, when I look at some of these things and I watch the old tapes on that DVD, because I think you were able to watch like kind of a season documentary, because I remember watching the Ohio State game on that DVD. And so Texas beat every team by double digits, most by 20 plus, but every team by double digits except for number 4 Ohio State and number 1 USC. So, I mean, those were crazy, crazy results, putting up 70, averaging 56 a game. Like Texas was such a good team, such a dominant team, probably the most dominant Texas team we may ever see. 56 points per game. That's the best Texas offense of all time. But yeah, so Texas beat everybody by double digits. They did have a better point spread margin than Miami. Miami had a 33-point margin. Texas won by 34 on average. But that 0-1 Miami team slaughtered some ranked teams. But yeah, to get more into 05, to reminisce for some of you guys, they averaged 50 points a game, gave up 16. And their point differential is, one of the best in the modern era. USC, for reference, in 2003 and 2004 was 4th and 3rd in point differential. Their 04 team was great, right? But that same nucleus comes back, Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, and plays against Vince Young, and we all know what happened. I think when you're also looking at these lists, you got to think about the quarterbacks and who can get it done. If you were going to have a super team versus super team, an all-time list, if you could do the all-time games, like I think you can do that in NBA 2K. They need to bring that to college football 25. But an all-time team, they probably don't want to pay the guys, that they got away with not paying in the past. But if they do want to ante up and pay the old dudes for their likeness, please, because I would love to be able to play 01 Miami versus 05 Texas, or 05 Texas versus 2023 Michigan, or get Tim Tebow against Colt McCoy. But hey, this Texas team, right? Like when you look at it, Vince Young was basically like a 6'5" Lamar Jackson. The guy had 4,000, basically 4,100 total yards, 38 total TDs. And of course, he had the greatest national championship game in history, beating USC and having 470 total yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. I mean, that's something you got to think of, like if he were to go against like 2021 Georgia, right? Because that's who's right behind him, which I think that's just asinine to put 2021 Georgia right behind that Texas team. But Texas, like Vince Young would scramble all over that D-line. They had trouble stopping Bryce Young. That was what I got in an argument with a guy on Instagram about, was like they lost to Bama 41-17. So you can't say that's the best defense ever. And then you only beat Bama the second time because Jamison Williams and Mechie were out. So, I mean, I think that's why I would put, if I were going to make this list, I'd go Miami, Texas, then 2019 LSU, then USC, then Georgia. Because when you look at this, it's like Matt Leinart is not a super dynamic quarterback. Ken Dorsey of Miami was a Heisman finalist as well, but he couldn't scramble like Vince Young. But yeah, guys, I'm at the 10-minute mark. So if you want to call in and give your opinions on the 2005 national championship team, and just kind of, shoot the breeze and talk about these teams and theoreticals. It's fun. I genuinely think Texas is probably the second best team we've seen, since the new millennia. But yeah, that Texas team, like, we forget Jamal Charles was on that team. Jamal Charles, who then went on to be, a Pro Bowl player. And Texas also was just complete on both sides of the ball. You forget Aaron Ross, Brian Robinson, Rapco, Aaron Harris, Drew Kelson, who is a Inside Texas contributor, of course, and the Griffins, Cedric and Michael. Michael Huff, the Thorpe Award winner, probably the best defensive back in Texas history. Like, that team also had 24 NFL players. And I saw someone comment, like, we're not even going to argue about Miami because 0-1 Miami, 38 NFL players, that's untouchable. But I think Texas is pretty close in terms of the modern era. That team was dominant. To beat teams on average by 34 points. I mean, I love that Texas team. And I think this is a good point by Victor that LSU was one of the best offenses, like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Joe Burrow. But their defense, they gave up 20 plus a game. Shout out Dave Aranda, now Baylor Bears coach. But yeah, Texas's offense, I think, was really, really great. They had a lot of weapons. It was more than just Vince Young, Quan Cosby, Linus Swede. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. I just thought this was funny, and this is like just pure off-season talk, of course. Always fun to talk about. But I genuinely think that Vince Young, you got to take him hands down over Matt Leinart in college, of course. Both of them didn't have much of an NFL career, but I think Vince Young, Jamal Charles, those boys, young Quan Cosby, that team was loaded. That team, aside from 0-1 Miami, and I think putting Georgia right behind them is just frankly disrespectful. But we're going to go ahead and bring in our first caller. If you guys have any opinions on, these lists and stuff like that, want to tell me where I'm wrong. But I think Miami 1, Texas 2, and LSU or USC probably 3 and 4, but Georgia nowhere near there. And that's not just because we dislike Georgia now. We're going to go ahead and bring in our first caller. We got Bubba here again. Bubba, can you hear me?
How's it going?
Good to have you on. What do you got for me?
Hey, I'll tell you what. This list has got my piss hot, and I think you know why.
Why is that?
Where is the 2010 Auburn team, man?
Oh, that's right, Bubba. You're an Auburn guy, huh? Yeah, I'm okay. I will say this. I think 2010 Auburn, like, Cam Newton was an absolute monster, but I actually remember watching him play against Kentucky in person against Randall Cobb. They barely beat Kentucky. They barely beat a lot of teams. They had to come back against Alabama in the Iron Bowl. I mean, that Cam Newton team was basically just super Cam, dude.
Okay. And I could say the Michigan team was just Connor Stallions. So, I mean, if we want to do it like that, we can.
I mean,
I
think
our team may have not been the best players, but they're full of grit. And that's more that I can say for that Michigan team.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you got to like 2010 Auburn, at least up there with 2011 and 12 Alabama, because like with A.J. McCarron at quarterback, and I'm trying to think. I think that was both A.J. McCarron. That was after Greg McElroy. I think like Cam Newton definitely was more dynamic than that. Those teams were great defenses, but I definitely think like Cam Newton could beat that team. I think Cam Newton could beat the 23 Michigan team.
Yeah, I mean, obviously these guys don't think so, but it's whatever. All right, well, thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, thanks for calling in again. We'll get one more on the just talk some fun theoreticals about the top 10 teams since 2000. We got one more caller. Gerald, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Your boy Victor Santiago is he's tripping sack.
Wait, Victor?
Best offense, not one of the best teams of all time.
Okay, the thing is Victor, if I can bring that comment back up. Yeah, LSU. So, I mean, is he wrong, though? That defense was nothing impressive.
Most top 5 wins in a season of all time.
Well, actually,
absolutely
Ohio State did just
slaughtered everybody in the playoffs that they played.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter if you give 21 points a game when you're probably averaging as many as they were. And you put them up against, I mean, for the most part, other than maybe 2 or 3 of the teams on this list, they're coming out with a win.
Yeah, now, okay, I would love to see 05 Texas's offense against 2019 LSU's offense. I mean, that's
one of the games that I don't know if LSU pulls that out. I think if they play most of the other teams, okay, great, Victor. They put up 70 in the playoffs almost.
Yeah, but would they be able to do that against Michael Huff? Would they be able to do that against Cedric and Michael Griffin? Aaron Ross, our boy Drew Kelson? I don't think so.
Okay,
I
they
don't
were
think they're putting
playing
up 70.
Alabama where they had dudes that were just as talented as them in the
Victor's
secondary.
laughing at you now.
Victor, what happened in 2019 when the Horns played LSU?
Okay, so we got a
Laugh
good
at
point
that.
by KJ. KJ says Derek Stingley, Grant Delpit. This is all good point. Clevion Chason. That was a really good defense. Clevion Chason, a North Shore guy. But yeah, I mean, that was a really good defense talent wise, but their execution was not. I mean, I didn't write that number down. I mean, LSU did have a 25 points per game differential. So I mean, they did have a harder schedule probably than 05 Texas, but that defense, they did struggle, but they were situationally good. But that offense was so legendary that's why I think you definitely got to put them against.
I mean, they played
ahead of
Bama,
21 Georgia.
Clemson, OU, Georgia. Like, out of any of these teams right here, who's playing a schedule like that?
Yeah,
None
I
of
mean
them.
that is a fair point. That's why like I said, my list was Miami, Texas, LSU,
See,
and
John
probably
knows
USC.
ball. You need to get John on the comments. Get Victor out of here. All right, James.
All right, thanks
Talk
for
to you.
calling, man. Fun talking to you. All right, guys. That's always fun. Let us know in the comments what you think. These are the theoreticals. This is what we're going to do all spring is talk about the old teams. But hopefully 2025's team and beyond will mirror 2005, 2006. We got to I think they need to make some changes to their list, in my opinion. But if you need to make some changes, I think you know who you need to call. Our friends from Luxe.
This video is brought to you by Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision of your special home. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team provides full remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today. Or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get a free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Link in the description.
Talk about the future. Enough with the past, talking about 05. Let's talk about 2026. I was lucky enough to go to Junior Day this weekend with Charlie and Justin. Fun time with those guys. We've actually got Charlie joining the show. We're going to recap kind of 2026 Junior Day, talk about who we saw and, what's next in the recruiting process for Texas in 2026 as we start looking on the next year. Charlie, thanks for being my first official guest of my 6th episode tonight.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm good. What's up, James?
Not much, man. So Charlie and I and Justin, we went to the 2026 Junior Day. I mean, Charlie, if you want to go ahead and take the floor, you're the recruiting expert. Tell us, some of the guys we saw and what you thought.
Man, look, 2026, this Junior Day was loaded with so much talent from guys in the trenches, athletes outside, some future 5-stars, some that's already 5-stars. Like you got your quarterback in Dia Bell, the Texas commit, 2026 class. He had one of the top running backs in Javion Osborne out of Forney, Texas. He was there. Had a couple of receivers show up. A couple. Eric said Travis Hunters and Jalen Lott, and it was so jam-packed, man, with so many talented kids. As you know, we got to talk to so many, trying to interview them as they were running in the parking lot, trying to get to their cars and stuff like that. But it was a good time to see so many kids there to show up. Some driving 7-8 hours away just to come to Texas Junior Day, and they enjoyed it. The biggest thing is everybody had the same message when they left, right? They all talked about the close culture that they had within the program, right? Getting to meet current players and talk to them, ask them questions like, hey, how is it? How is it really behind the scenes? I know these coaches are telling me X, Y, and Z, but how is it, right? And everybody, all the players had the same message. So it was a good day, man. Really good day.
Yeah, it was fun for me because that was the first ever recruiting event I've done. And it was just really cool to see how it worked. For those who don't know, Junior Day is like the first day that all the juniors in the next class, 2025s, obviously a lot of them are enrolled. 26 is so now these juniors and sophomores from high schools, most of them were from Texas, came out and they got to tour the campus and whatnot. And so we were out there waiting in the cold, getting videos of the guys and interviewing them. And that's the one point that Charlie made. I talked to Javian Osborne, Cozy Akpala, Jabari Mack, Taylon Mayo. There's a lot of other guys, but if you check out the Inside Texas YouTube channel, we did put up a video with all our coverage of Charlie, Justin, interviewing the players. But what the players had to say was all family. They love the food, but they love the family atmosphere, and that it felt like, they were treating them like they were already a part of the program. They were acting like they really cared. I mean, that's what Taylon Mayo told me was, they actually, paid attention to my growth as a player. And he said, like, they talked to me about how much better I'm doing and like how they like this area and actually know stuff about the games and how the kids playing, which is really cool to see that it's not like this informal, like impersonal thing. It's very much like they care about the kids. And I think that's why, a lot of these kids hopefully will end up going to Texas. But like from the kids I talked, they're all nice guys. It seems like Sark actually cares to talk to them. Like it was cool to me. I thought maybe they wouldn't want to talk to us, but as Charlie was saying, like someone came from hours away and they would be like, yeah, man, I'll talk to you. And like, it's my first time interviewing and doing this kind of stuff. So I'm a little nervous and they're all really nice. And like, they were calling me sir, which started to make me feel old, but it was,
you did
an
excellent job, man. You did a really, really great job getting some great video content. So you killed it out there, but Junior Day really just sets the foundation of a lot of recruiting relationships, right? First time some of them been on campus, some been back a couple times, but this is the first time coaches can really, hey, this is our plan for you, right? This is Texas. This is what we do. This is how we see you fitting in at Texas. This is how we work out. This is, the whole nine. Parents get to see it. So because you don't get to get that during football season when you visit, right? You get a tour of the facilities just a little bit, but coaches don't have much time for you. So Junior Day is the first real time that coaches can spend, hours with you, just taking you around, talking to you. It was good to see a bunch of kids get offers, right? So Kadrian Redmond, 2027 defensive lineman. I know he camped at Texas last summer, and Coach Baker told him, look, I need to see more. You're just a freshman. You're just a baby. When you play on varsity this year, if you show me on film you can play, I'll offer you. And then he shows up at Junior Day, he gets the offer. So cool stories like that, man. Just that relationship building from then to now. It's just it's really good to see.
Yeah, and I asked a lot of the players, and I think it really helps that these guys are having success early on, the 2024 class, 2023 class, because I was asking them, their favorite players, like just curious. And obviously every single guy on defense is saying Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill. But, especially from the Texas area, like Ant Hill's from here, Simmons is from here. So these guys see that and instantly Colin Simmons can come in and have 9 sacks. And Ant Hill's got 110 plus tackles and 7.5 sacks. Like these kids obviously look up to, Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, and they see what they're doing. And they, especially the defensive guys, they were all like, oh, I want to be like him. I model my game after him. So that was really cool to see, and just seeing the progression of how pretty soon here in a couple of years, you're going to look at some of these guys. So, they felt like young babies and it'll be like Colin Simmons or Anthony Hill.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's good to see. You'll remember the faces as we go, and you probably won't be the first time you see them, right? I know we probably be back during the summer and different things, like they have different camps and different visits. These kids will show up and you'll kind of get to know them, build your own relationship with them. So you kind of know what they're thinking, the whole nine. So it's a fun, exciting time, man, covering recruiting. This is just the beginning of it, though.
Yeah, I saw Dia Bell there briefly. Obviously, he's kind of the cornerstone of the 2026 class so far, 4-star, 5-star, depending where you look. But a lot of people think he could be the best quarterback in that class. I saw him. He arrived in a golf cart, getting the celebrity treatment. Didn't get to interview him, but yeah, he came by going in the Moncrief on a golf cart with his family and some recruiting guys. But that was cool to see. I didn't get to talk to him, but was there anybody in particular that really like jumped out to you, or that you are hoping will be a part of this class in the future?
Man, you can go down a list of offensive linemen I hope are in this class, right? Especially at the tackle position. You got Felix Ojo. You got Mr. Couture from Euless Trinity. Drew Evers, who can play all 5 spots. Max Wright, a big 6'8" tackle out of Melissa, Texas.
I was talking to that guy.
He's a big kid. So he has so many. Zayden Crippen out of Prosper, Texas. Like all 5 of those guys are really, really good and they're talented. So wherever they fit in, just get them here, right? You never have too many big humans. And so, but also, the 2 athletes in Jalen Lott and And he goes, "Why slips my mind?" I can't think of the athlete out of Willis, Texas, right now for some odd reason. Jermaine Bishop, sorry, yeah, Jermaine Bishop, who's another athlete who can play corner and receiver. Man, those guys are extremely talented. So just that Damian Will defense 26 talented, and he's shooting up the board. So there's so many guys, you know, they're in a Texas class, and we'll see as we go through the year. But man, it's just a good time. But one thing that stood out to me really is Dia Bell connecting with all the players.
Yeah.
Like, talking to all the offensive linemen, like, hey, I need you, big fella. I need you to protect my blind side or protect me up front. Talking to Mr. Osborne, or, you know, the running back. And so Dia Bell is like, he's the leader of this class. Like most quarterbacks are, you're the leader on the team, but he's the leader of this recruiting class. He's trying to put it together, man. And as a quarterback, I mean, you should, right? That's your personality. That should be your trait, especially if you're going to lead a team. And so it was good to see him connect with all the offensive linemen, especially like, yo, I need you, big fella. Let's roll.
Yeah, I had heard about that he's been kind of starting to do recruiting on his own, which is crazy to think this kid, you know, already early, he's probably 17, like he's not even in his senior year of high school. He's already worried about the class. And I think that's a testament to kind of the culture shift. And like Charlie and I mentioned, like every single kid talked about the family atmosphere, how everyone made them feel special and important and stuff like that. And I think Dia going and communicating, trying to close the deal on players, like player recruiting is really when people think about even transfer portal, like just classes being different. A lot of it is based on how active your players are in talking to other people. You know, everyone heard about Jackson Dart at Ole Miss was recruiting people hard in the portal. I think Michael Paff was recruiting some people in the portal last year. But Jabari Mack, actually, to talk more about that culture, we were talking to Jabari Mack, and he's a New Orleans kid, receiver, 4-star, I believe. But he was talking about Arch Manning, because the great Justin Wells asked him about Arch Manning, naturally both from New Orleans. And he was like, oh, Arch has never even really talked to me about coming here. He just talks to me as like a friend. And he was like, oh, we work out with the same trainer, but Arch is really just supportive and trying to, like, you know, get to know me and not talk to me a ton about football or like trying to, you know, persuade me one way or another. And I think that, you know, that's a really good sign, like, because we know Arch is going to be a driving force for future. Sure.
Definitely, man. Arch is just a solid. Arch is a solid dude, man. Like a lot of kids say the exact same thing. Like he's not necessarily trying to get them to come here, but like he just builds relationships with people. And I mean, who doesn't want to play with Arch Manning? You know, I think that's almost a given. I would want to.
Yeah. I mean, even if I was a walk-on, I'd want to play with Arch Manning just to say I played with a Manning.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, I think he will definitely help the classes in the future. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's why we got Charlie here. He's the recruiting expert. I met a few of these guys for the first time, obviously, but I think they all enjoyed the school tour. They got Gus's Fried Chicken with if you are not from Texas and don't know what Gus's Fried Chicken is, I feel bad for you. Better than Cane's, and I love Cane's, but they got Gus's. They were talking about that. They gave them some cookies and stuff. Like all the kids, it seems like they were eating good. I would love to be a 4-star recruit someday in another life. But yeah, it seems like everybody enjoyed it. I liked all the kids. Like met all their parents were nice. They were all very helpful, respectful. I mean, all in all, I think it was a great experience. And for a rookie like me to get into recruiting that way, it actually was quite a nice experience, all in all, even for us.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I thought you nailed it. You killed it out there, especially with the video and the content. So, man, you did an awesome job, man. We had a good crew out there, man. It's always a good time. We all get together. So,
yeah, that was awesome.
I look forward to seeing you at some more events, my man.
Yeah, man. Maybe I'll become a junior recruiter too. I'll add that onto my repertoire.
And maybe it won't be as cold and we can feel our hands.
It was a cold day, but we were out there getting content for you guys, which, by the way, make sure to check out the YouTube video that Charlie, Justin, and I did. It's the junior day recap video. We posted it on Saturday. But Charlie, you got anything else to add?
No, man. Just like this 2026 class is really just exciting. I know it's early. It's only January, so give them some time. These kids are going to take official visits and weigh all their options. But I think this 2026 class has a chance to be really, really good and special. I know we just finished with the #1 recruiting class, but this class has a chance to be really special with a bunch of Texas in-state guys versus a lot of out-of-state. So that's one thing to watch for.
Yeah, I look at that list and the offers, and most of them, you know, Prosper, North Crawley, North Shore. I mean, it's a Temple. It's a lot of in-state guys, which is great. Like, we want to see Texas dominating the top recruits in the state.
Yeah, my man. Most definitely. James, I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah,
man.
Charlie. Thanks for being my first guest, man.
Yeah. I love hearing tune in and hear your callers and see your debates. And don't worry about Victor, man. Don't let him give you a hard time.
Hey, well, actually, hey, you're an older guy. You're wiser than me. What do you think about that 05 team versus 01 LSU, 03 USC, and kind of the 2019 LSU and all that? What would you think?
All right. So yeah, I think like you said, it's not debatable. Miami's going number one.
Yeah.
That's tough. That 05 team was talented everywhere else, but I think we would have struggled outside the receiver. If I'm gonna keep it real, right? Honestly, USC, the 2003 USC team was probably better than the 2004 team, if you ask me. They lost a lot of NFL talent in 2003, but I would definitely not have Georgia number 4. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think they beat any one of those
team
Alabama
is
teams.
so overrated.
They're not beat any one of those Alabama teams. 08 Florida. 08 Florida was super talented.
Yeah, that team, as controversial as they were, they had some scandal.
Exactly.
That team was loaded.
They're loaded on offense and defense. Maybe people discrying Tebow, but he was the leader of that driving force of that team. So I don't know. I probably put them within the top 5. But man, this is tough. This is a tough list. I know you got to put Alabama's teams in there, but I'm old school, right? Like Victor just put it up there, like Nebraska with Tommy Frazier, like in '95. Man.
Oh, this is post 2000.
Post 2000. Okay,
yeah.
I apologize. See, Victor, you got me off track. It's a good list. I probably mix it up. The 05 team though was very, very talented.
Yeah,
I would just say outside at receiver, it just wasn't as dynamic as most teams. I think.
Because Quan Cosby was young, and I'm trying to. David Thomas was second on the team in receiving yards.
He's solid. Right? You had Lyman Swede, Brian Carter.
Billy Pittman.
Billy Pittman, right? You had young Nate Jones on that team. Shipley was on the team, but he was hurt. I want to say hamstring issue. So you look at across the board. Will any one of those receivers start on today's roster or last year's roster?
Probably not.
And that's my argument. But you had BY in the running game and an awesome defense. So
now, would they beat 2019 LSU though? You think?
I don't think so.
Dang! Oh, that might get the comments stirred.
Here's my reason why I feel like they outscore us.
Yeah, that was what some of the guys were saying in the comments and on the call. The last caller I had was saying there's just because it is true they did drop 70 on OU and like 50 on Clemson, and that was a Clemson team that had won 29 in a row, I think. So that was Clemson coming off of the 2018 title. That is the thing. That LSU offense might be the best we've ever seen, but like I brought up earlier, Texas did average, I think it was 54 that year or 56. Yeah, Texas's offense was nuts.
It was very, very good. I feel like this. It comes down to the wire. If Texas has the ball last, they're going to win because VY is going to make it happen.
Yeah,
I'll say that. And LSU defense was not – they had a bunch of talent. They just didn't play cohesively together as a unit that year. They got stops and turnovers, but they still gave up a lot of yards, that LSU team. So I thought we were better scoring them, but they were scoring us too. It would be a really, really good game. It would be a really good game, but I give them the edge, not because they're just so much talented in us, that their offense is just high-powered and, it would have been tough because I feel like they could have meshed up against our receivers outside very well and shut the passing game down for us.
Yeah, but Vince being mobile and like I kind of mentioned, the 200 yards rushing as a quarterback in the national title game, the 1,000 yards rushing, like that's the thing where it's like I think he'd keep them in every one of these games. I don't think Texas is getting run out of the building by any team on this list.
No, I don't think they get run out of the building by any team, and they'll beat that. Definitely beat. I feel like they'll beat a lot of the teams that's up there. But yeah, I'll just say I will say this though. I feel like the Texas 2001 team would have beat Miami 01 team. If we play Applewhite versus Colorado instead of Sims, but that's a story for a different day.
Oh, I don't think I'm ready for that conversation because I don't know much about that team. I was born that year, so.
Oh man, all right, make me feel old. Appreciate you, James.
All right, Charlie, thanks for coming on. Hopefully we'll see Charlie more on the show. Maybe we'll get Justin on the show because they are the recruiting guys. I don't know anything in comparison to them. They are experts, but thank you, Charlie, for coming on. I appreciate it, man.
All right, cool. I'll holler at you, James.
All right, I'll see you. All right, guys. Thanks to Charlie Williams for coming on the show. So next we talked about Junior Day. Now we got to get into some more fun lists and then bring on some callers. So On3 released their top 25 players. So we got to obviously bring this one up. Yeah, get a load of that and just let me know what your initial thoughts are in the comments there. So there you go. Number 1, Jeremiah Smith, who, hey, I mean, he's like Megatron. I'll give him that. But Sam Levitt, On3 is getting weirdly high on Sam Levitt this offseason. We played Sam Levitt. He played all right. I mean, he completed like 55% of his passes, but he was running all over Colin Simmons and, Anthony Hill. He was running around like he was a pretty good scrambling quarterback. Maybe Manziel, light, like, Walmart Manziel, which is still a really good quarterback. We'll see. That kid's going to have to make a crazy jump. They had him as their number 1 quarterback. But there we see the first Texas player, Colin Simmons. Oh, what the heck just happened? I just lost my picture. But shoot, I do not know what just happened. I think we might have lost Texas Homer backstage, but so yeah, I'll just have to go off of memory here. So the top 5 or top 10 is Jeremiah Smith, Sam Levitt. Okay, Texas Homer's back in, boys. Here we go. We need producer Homer here to get the show rolling, but he's fueling the operation behind the scenes. He gets all these graphics for us. Thank you to Homer for putting it back up. But so, yeah, Colin Simmons at 5. I like that. He had 9 sacks. I think he could turn into a Will Anderson type of player. We got to remember he's just a true freshman. It feels like because he played so much, had so many meaningful reps that he's like a veteran player already, or you've known him forever. But I think he could be like Will Anderson Jr. levels. But another guy, Dylan Stewart, like you can't argue with that. I think Colin Simmons at 5 is really good. Now, Anthony Hill not being on the list, that's a very good point why he's not in the top 10. But here, I'll go ahead and show you guys the back half of that top 25. So as we see, they've got Anthony Hill at 11. I think Anthony Hill's a top 10 player in the country. Let me know what you guys think, but I definitely do think that Anthony Hill is a top 10 player in the country. He had over 100 tackles. He had 7.5 sacks, I believe, off of memory. And then, of course, Arch Manning, for some reason, they're writing checks that I don't know if a lot of these kids can cash. Like poor Sam Levitt now is their number 1 quarterback. That's a pretty tough bill to live up to for Sam Levitt. But he's a good player. But DJ Lagway, man, I don't get the DJ Lagway hype. I mean, Arch Manning ran for more yards than him last year. Arch Manning had 68% completion percentage. He had 9 TDs to 2 INTs and way less games, mind you. DJ Lagway threw 9 picks in like 7 starts. He only had 100 yards rushing. He's kind of overrated as an athlete. He's more of a pocket passer in all honesty. But I'd love for you guys to call in, give your opinions in on the top 25 ratings. If you think more Texas players should be on there, who you think is missing from this list. I think Michael Taft has an argument. We see only one safety. If you didn't see, Caleb Downs is the only safety in the whole top 25. I think Michael Taft is, he's a top 3 safety in the country now, just statistically. I mean, 2 INTs, 78 tackles. He had a few pass deflections. He had one of the highest coverage grades of any safety in the country, which is pretty nuts. But yeah, I mean, I think you've got to have Arch Manning ahead of Lagway because clearly we're doing projections, right? Is Arch Manning, like, this is my question to the audience. Take off your Texas hats for a second. No bias. Is Arch Manning, if you're going off of what they're supposed to be, because you're projecting with DJ Lagway just as much as Arch Manning, is Arch Manning going to be better than DJ Lagway and Sam Levitt? God bless Sam Levitt. Good player. He fought hard against Texas. But yeah, I just think Arch Manning is going to be a way better quarterback. And the fact that DJ Lagway is ahead of him is a little absurd in my opinion. I just think that's kind of asinine. Again, DJ Lagway is 60% passer, 9 INTs in minimal action. And he's not even that good of an athlete. I just think that having DJ Lagway ahead of him is probably the most egregious one because Arch Manning, you're really just projecting. Anthony Hill not being in the top 10 is a little, he's a little underrated, which good. Keep underrating Anthony Hill. He wasn't a Butkus finalist. You let Danny Stutzman be a Butkus finalist. We saw the stats. Anthony Hill was a significantly better player this year statistically, and I would just say impact-wise on a better team. But hey, disrespect Anthony Hill. I'm sure he loves that. Like, give a 5-star fuel. That guy was an absolute beast coming out of the 2023 class. He's just going to keep getting better. I mean, with Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons, and, Trey Moore coming in, stuff like that. But yeah, getting into that though, I'm thinking 2025, who are some guys who could be on this list, right? Call in if you have, if you think someone from Texas could end up as a top 25 player in the country. I mean, I think someone we're forgetting is CJ Baxter, number one running back in his class. He had 800 total yards in 2023 in a backup role, 5 TDs. He's 6'1", 220. I mean, he could be an absolute monster if he gets back to, full health. Even 90% CJ Baxter finally getting full first team reps. That guy's going to be an absolute beast, and people have forgotten about him because he's been hurt. I mean, hey, let him forget. And then, of course, Trey Wisener's coming back. The running back room will be a lot better. But yeah, I think CJ Baxter could be great. And I think if we're going to talk about players in 2025 who could really jump off the page, if Mike T takes another step, Michael Taft, I think already may be a top 25 player in the country. If he has the same season as last year, he's probably a top 25 player in the country. Like this year, he had a great season. Like he went from being walk-on, should this kid really be playing, to, he's got 2 interceptions, 78 tackles, a few pass deflections here. Great. He had great stats. I think he had a sack actually against OU, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, Mike T was everywhere, anywhere at all at once. Mike T, I think, could be a top 25 player. Leano Lafau, I think, could make a jump. He had a couple sacks, about 60 tackles. Ryan Wingo. I like Ryan Wingo or DeAndre Moore. I'm going to, we saw Jeremiah Smith at 1. I'm going to manifest the fact that Texas will have an elite receiver next year. I like Ryan Wingo because he's 6'2". I think people forget he's lanky, he's fast, he can get out to 22 miles an hour. Ryan Wingo could take an absolute jump. We know Arch likes him. DeAndre Moore, Arch likes throwing the ball at him. Trey Moore is someone like maybe he lives up to the billing. Could he be a super impact player where we see Trey Moore go from 5.5 sacks back into double digits, and he's on this list, right? I will say Texas did have 3 players on the top 25. That was the highest, tied with Clemson, randomly enough. I mean, who knows if Clemson will be that good next year, but Texas had 2 of their players in the top 10. So, like, Texas is expected to be loaded. Everyone's thinking that going into 2025 with, some of these guys being snubbed, in my opinion, like someone like Taft. But I think guys will step up, and you'll probably, at the end of the year, maybe you're thinking like, oh, yeah, Trey Moore is probably one of the better edges in the country along with Colin Simmons. Maybe Ethan Burke steps up. Maybe Colton Vosick finally starts getting some reps. He was a highly recruited player. Feel free to call in, guys, now if you have any predictions on who you think's going to step up. I do like Alex January. I think he's got a big future because we got to remember those D linemen. Last year we lost Murphy and Sweat, but you could just fill that in with Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton. Like there was not as much of a problem. Alex January's a bit of an unknown. Justice Terry will probably play. I think Jalen Gilbo could make a jump next year. There's a lot, like we forget, there's a lot of talent in these. And Sark always says, no difference between the 2s and the 3s. I think that's something we could see happen. Next year is like those guys who've been waiting, eager to play are going to step up and perform. But yeah, I mean, those are just a few guys I like to step up. I think the only ones who realistically could be threats to become elite players are someone like, maybe Leano Lafau has that potential. Ryan Wingo, of course. Trey Moore. I think Trey Moore could definitely pop off and get 10 sacks. Trey Moore and Colin Simmons on the edge could be an absolute threat next year, and Trey Moore could play his way into being, one of the most talked about edges in the country. But I do think, yeah, this list, maybe it's more reactionary. I do think this list is a little off, having Arch behind Lagway, not having Anthony Hill in the top 10. But we're going to go ahead and bring in a caller. Feel free to call in, guys. Click the link in the live stream chat, and you can call in and give us your takes and tell me what you think about this list and what players you think might break out next year. So we're going to go ahead and bring in another caller here. We got Tom. Tom, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's going on, James?
Hey, how you doing, Tom? What do you got for me?
I'm doing pretty good. I like the names that you're bringing up so far. I think one you touched on that for me is going to be a number one breakout player is Ryan Wingo. I think Wingo has potential to be like a Xavier Worthy level talent. I think he could be probably a first round pick in the next couple of years, and I'm really excited to see him and Arch connect a lot over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, Wingo, that's the thing we forget is like the receivers, someone's got to bust, right? Like someone's got to be an Xavier Worthy type or it really pop. Like Xavier Worthy or an AD Mitchell, he was a transfer, of course, but like Xavier Worthy was the last like in-house receiver that really popped and lived up to the billing, maybe even exceeded it. But yeah, I mean, there's no reason that Ryan Wingo with that speed, his length, that he couldn't pop off and have, an 1,100-yard season. And Arch, we know they're going to be throwing it deep more. People were talking, of course, about Quinn not throwing it deep. and that we think Arch will give more variety to the offense. But I definitely do think that we could see Wingo really pop off for another better season and show some flashes, but maybe become the sole receiver one, and then maybe DeAndre Moore right behind him, who he did have 7 TDs this year. I just think Texas, someone's going to have to step up if we're talking about another guy who's going to be nationally like a top 25 player,
Yes, sir.
Anything else from you, Tom?
No, have a good night.
All right. Thanks for coming on, man. All right. We got one more caller here. Jackson, can you hear me? Hello?
Yep. How you doing?
Good, man. What's going on?
Not much. Yeah.
What do you think about that list there?
Yeah, I think I agree with almost everything you said about DJ Lagway. Slightly overrated as an athlete. I agree. And he's on the list at 20, but I think Lenore Sellers is actually getting a little disrespected. I think.
Dude, yeah, he really is. At the end of the year, at the end of the season there, Lenore's let me put that. Yeah, the 11 through 20 there, Lenore's at 20. Like, Lenore single-handedly beat Clemson on the road. Like, yeah, he's a way better athlete than Lagway.
100%. And I mean, there's a lot of time before the season starts, but honestly, right now, I think that's my Heisman pick.
Really, Lenore's for Heisman?
I do. I think I just really like last year. His receivers are getting a little bit better, which I think are going to help him a lot. And also South Carolina in general as a program, they're trending upwards right now. And then on the Ryan Wingo talk, I agree with a lot of things you guys are saying. And I think the key for Texas next year, which they didn't really have this year because Bond struggled with injuries, never really broke out, is if they can have a guy break out and be their true number one and attract more attention, then I think that leaves his room for DeAndre Moore to just be such a great safety blanket, because he's really great in open space. He had that long touchdown against Arizona State. I think that showed a lot. And then with Wingo, I think he can do everything, man. I mean, he's so talented in multiple different facets of the game. Like, Sark loves his screenplays. He loves his motion. I could see him becoming fit into like a Deebo Samuel role almost. But he's also a deep threat as well, because he has insane speed, but he's big, man. He's hard to tackle. There were 2 specific plays in the OU game where guys were just bouncing off him. Like they couldn't tackle.
Yeah, because Wingo's big. I mean, he's 6'2", 205, 210 maybe. Like, he does have a little bit of that stockier build. That's why when I was looking at his measurables earlier today, I forgot he was 6'2", because he kind of looks a little like meatier. But that one, the other play coming off the motion at Michigan totally changed the dynamic of that game. That 55-yard little like jet touch pass to him. I mean, Wingo, I think we really should expect big things out of him. Like, he should have a jump this year. And people forget he was a freshman too. It's like, I feel like the season was so long. It's like Colin Simmons and Wingo feel like established guys, but it's like they're only going to get better, most likely. Like, Wingo, I think as a number one could really, really open up the offense, and the fact that they're going to finally attack the intermediate and deep level of passing more, we think, with Arch. So like, I really hope this offense like opens up a lot more next year. And Moore, dude, Moore is a great route runner. He just, he had a couple drops in the season. If he could just be a more reliable guy, that'll be good. But like, again, he had 7 touchdowns. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple receivers go over like that 600-700 yard mark.
For sure. And you also mentioned Baxter coming back.
Yeah, I
think that'll be huge. I'm hoping the injury, he's still what he was last year, because I really thought that he was going to break out this year, before the injury. So I'm really excited to see him. And the running back room they have so many options with Gibson and Travion and Baxter, and Arch can also run the ball. I mean, the offense has a lot of options this year. I think the key, what they need to do is just make sure they know their identity and they find their identity, and not just kind of try different things every game for the whole season, which I felt kind of happened a little bit this year.
Yeah, down the stretch, it felt like they had zero offensive identity. I would bring up a stat before the season ended that from until the Ohio State game, they hadn't scored a third quarter touchdown from the first Georgia game until that Ohio State. Like, the offense felt like they were kind of just wandering aimlessly, like floating in space. not really. Like they looked to Quinn, then Quinn would look to the running game, and then like nothing would really work in a big game. But then just because of how elite that defense was, and just something totally random would happen, like that DeAndre Moore big play, or like a big play would pop, or the swing pass would be open. But the offensive identity was just so off this year. It felt down the stretch, particularly.
And I think what's huge for that with all these different options now in the offense is everyone knows. One of Sark's biggest things is he scripts the first 25, 30 offensive play calls. And, he does that to test the defense, see what's available for the future drives. That's kind of his strategy. And I think with all these different options, that's just going to be exponentially better next year.
Yeah, and Khalil Lockett coming in, Jamie French. Who knows if Michael Terry will get in at receiver? I mean, is there anybody else you like aside from Moore or Wingo that's already on the roster that you think could pop?
I mean, you mentioned Michael Terry. I'm really excited to see where we use him because as of right now, there isn't really a starting tight end in Austin, at least a true one.
Now that Niblack left too, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I think they I can't remember.
They like Jordan Washington, I've heard that.
Yeah, and then
they're looking towards him.
Spencer Shannon hasn't really done much of anything, but he's massive, so I'm kind of interested to see that. And then there were like Jonah Williams, he played some offense in high school, potential there as well for him to play both ways, I think.
Yeah, maybe. He's playing baseball already too. Why not?
That's true.
Why not throw in a little Travis Hunter? I mean, does anybody like Manny Muhammad? I mean, Football Junkie said Manny Muhammad maybe. I know he got dogged on a little bit down the stretch, but I'm curious what do you think and what other fans are thinking about Manny Muhammad?
He had such a good freshman year. I really thought he was gonna kind of explode this year. And like you said, down the stretch, he sort of became the weak point of the secondary. Guys, like teams are really starting to target him. I might be wrong, but I think especially in the Arizona State game, there were 3 straight plays where they really got him pretty bad.
Clemson too.
Clemson, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. And there were some rumors few weeks ago that he was going to leave, that he was
we thought something about that, but then he ended up staying, which I think is great for him.
I agree. And who knows, Kobe Black might be ready to start. This secondary, it's really young, but a lot of talent, I think. Derek Williams also coming back could be huge for the secondary.
Well, and Michael Taft, the fact that he's coming back, he's going to be his communication is so great, but now he's going to have to kind of take that Jade role where he's more so dictating what people are doing, making sure people are in the right position. He already did a lot of that, but Makuba's gone. Derek Williams will be out there. Muhammad will be relied on some more. I think this secondary will still be really good because they're so deep. It probably won't be this year's. I mean, this year's secondary was third, I think, in pass yards per game. But I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see, and especially when you've got Michael Taft back there, who literally, genuinely is like a quarterback in the way he sees the game. What I've heard from him on film and stuff like that. But yeah, it's going to be no shortage of talent. I mean, we'll see what happens with some of those guys, but I definitely think the secondary should still be really good. This defense is, I think, one of those defenses now where it's going to be like a Georgia, where it's just every year it's going to be hard to go up against the Texas defense. Is the way it seemed. I mean, 23-24, they only got better even after losing some NFL talent. So, yes, we'll see how some of these pieces fit in. But I appreciate you calling in, Jackson.
Yeah, of course, anytime. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you have a good one.
You too.
All right, guys, we got one more thing to look at here, and then we'll bring in one last caller. Taft coming back is huge. I think that makes all the difference with a lot of these young guys. But last thing, we got another early view of things. This is the CFP projection from ESPN. This is On3 made this graphic for us, but as you see there, Texas in at number 6. Which I actually don't think is that bad. I kind of think Texas, when you look at that schedule, is probably going to be like a 10-2 team, similar to this year's Ohio State, which, I mean, you kind of want to be, right? Every single team that had a bye lost immediately, including Georgia. So it's maybe not the worst thing in the world to not play in the SEC title. But, yeah, I mean, I think Texas will probably be in that 7 range if they lose a couple games. The thing that I think is funny is first they're going to play North Carolina, according to this way too early, 12 teams college football playoff bracket. Yeah, and I mean, let's just get right into it. What I think is funny, they have Utah not only making it with, I mean, we love Cam Rising, 2018 class of 2018 Texas commit, but I think he is out of eligibility, or he retired. I don't think he is coming back at this point. But yeah, I mean, Utah beating Texas with, I mean, Zach Wilson's little brother. I think they got a transfer quarterback. I think that was very bold. But I like Texas to be hosting a playoff game next year. If I'm going to like really project, they have to go at Georgia. They have to go at the Swamp. They have to go at Ohio State, obviously. But Ohio State, they're not going to be the same Ohio State of old. They've got a lot of loss, including in the coaching staff now with Jim Knowles. But Texas, give me Texas over North Carolina at home. I mean, another ACC team at home, that's cake for the Horns. And then if they had to play Utah in the second round, I would like that. I mean, well, if you want to call in and give your opinion, I think this is just kind of fun to look at. The fact that they have Michigan and Ohio State rematching in the playoff. They'd be playing in back-to-back games in this theoretical. Utah making the playoff, though, and then beating Texas. I don't really see that happening. I think if Arch Manning, pulls off a season where they're able to, with that schedule, make the playoff and host a game, because to make the playoff, they're going to have to go 10-2, which means they probably either beat Ohio State or Georgia. They're going to win one of those games, in my opinion. I think Ohio State's probably more winnable, with the way they've had so much loss and talent, and Jim Knowles leaving, their defense probably won't be quite as good. But then playing Utah, I would like that draw. Now, Penn State has gotten a lot of hype. Yeah, this is a very good point by Victor. So they just lost Jim Knowles, and now they might lose Chip Kelly. That's what we're hearing. There's rumblings about Chip Kelly going back to the NFL. I mean, that would be very tough for Ryan Day, because one could argue that's the only reason they won the title, and they still were a 2-loss regular season team, right? Couldn't beat Michigan. Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles, that's about, that's 1A and 1B in terms of best coordinators in the country. PK's up there, though. Texas probably has the best offensive coordinator in the country, I would say. But, yeah, Jim Knowles leaving an OSU for the second time. First it was Oklahoma State, now Ohio State, which really hurts Ohio State. I do believe that Texas will probably win that game coming out of the gate. Just Julian Sands a totally unknown, and aside from Jeremiah Smith, their offensive production is out. Most of it's gone. Went on to the NFL, but yeah, I mean, I think Texas will beat Ohio State in that first game. I just don't know, going in between the hedges against Georgia and an improved Florida team on the Swamp. I think Texas, if I'm going to bet 10-2, their over unders 9.5, so that's a safe over still. But yeah, and then if they give them Utah, please throw them Utah. If Utah somehow limps into the playoff, all due respect to Cam Rising, but unless 2022 Cam Rising came back and played again and played at that level, I don't think that one's happening for Utah. But it's just kind of fun to look at. I don't think Penn State's winning the title. I don't think they have it in them, even though all their guys are coming back. But we're going to do our last caller. Keep commenting, guys. I'm just, it's fun to hear what y'all say about these playoff projections. I think it's just, frankly, more humorous than serious at this point in the year. We've got 7 months of off season left, so we'll probably do this a dozen times leading up to August 30th when we go to the shoe. So we're going to go ahead and bring in probably our last caller of the night. Hold on real quick. Can you hear me, Mike?
Yeah. Hey, James.
What's going on, man? What do you think about this early CFP bracket?
Yeah, it kind of just looks like clickbait, honestly, of North Carolina and Bill Belichick in the playoff. You have Michigan and Ohio State. I guess they'd be playing back-to-back games.
I just don't even think the committee would allow that. Even if it made sense logically, I don't think they would have them.
That would be pretty funny, though, because presumably Michigan's ranked ahead of Ohio State because they beat them the first time, and then they would beat them again. So,
yeah, what do you think about Utah? Does anybody know who Utah's starting quarterback is? If you could comment that, I don't think it might be Zach Wilson's little brother still. I'm not sure.
No.
Who's Utah's starting quarterback?
I don't think that's going to happen again.
Do you know who their starting quarterback is?
It's I think it's a guy from New Mexico. It's Dampier.
Hey, we don't want to doubt anybody from the state of New Mexico after Diego Pavia and what he's done to the world.
Yeah, exactly. They know the pipeline.
But I don't know. I don't see Utah bouncing back enough after they go 5-7 this year. No,
But it's the
Victor.
Big 12. That happens every year. You got some
Victor,
team.
that is true. Arizona State went from 3-9.
Arizona
to
State
almost
probably
beating
should have beat
Texas.
Texas, and they went 3-9 last year. So
Victor, I believe
they could have been
Rising
Final Four.
finally retired. We got Victor saying Cam Rising is the quarterback. I think former Longhorn Cam Rising finally did retire officially. I believe that's right. Do you know, Mike, since you said their new quarterback's the New Mexico guy?
I would hope so. You know, he's had a lot of injuries, unfortunately.
Yeah, he was a great player, but I mean, unless Prime Rising came back, I don't think Utah is going to be in the thick of things for a national title contention. Yeah, I mean, I like Texas. I do think maybe this is a little bit of rage bait just to get people clicking on it.
They got Brian Kelly going back to South Bend too. Like they're just
I mean, it seems like they're just kind of having fun. That would be a fun result to see Michigan and Ohio State play again, but yeah, Texas Homer and I were talking before. We thought, man, yeah, this might be a little bit of, this is just fun. So then people click on it and say it's a bad list. So then you get them talking. As the social media manager at Inside Texas, I plead the fifth on that. Maybe people do that. Maybe they don't. I have no idea. We would never post something just to get you to click on it. But yeah, I mean, I think that one's just kind of fun. Yeah, Rising finally retired. Utah probably not going to make the playoff and probably not going to be the Texas if I were to bet. Thanks for knowing who Utah's quarterback is, Mike. Appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, guys. And with that, we've basically got our show wrapped up. I mean, unless anybody has anything else to say about Cam Rising or the potential matchup with the Utah Utes in a year, which probably will not happen. These are always fun to look at in the future, like particularly, making Sam Leavitt your number 2 quarterback in the country. We'll see if he's invited to New York. Maybe Arch Manning will get invited to New York and he'll show that he's actually underrated as the 14th best player in the top 25. Arch Manning underrated. Who knows? Maybe, possibly. I do think Anthony Hill is definitely underrated in that one. He might be a Butkus finalist. He should be. He might win it though, after getting slighted this year. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for coming along. We talked about everything from Vince Young to recruiting Junior Day 2026, which make sure you do watch the recruiting Junior Day 2026 video that we have out on Inside Texas. We filmed some good stuff, great interviews. Charlie and I were talking about that. We had our first ever guest on the Horn, episode 6. Thank you to Charlie for coming on. That was a great conversation. Thank you to our callers. And again, guys, make sure that you download StreamYard in the chat, and you can call in the future and talk football with us and tell us what you think we get wrong and what you like and what you don't like. It's always fun, particularly in the out of season. We don't like to say off season. We don't believe in that around here, but it is fun when you're out of season to talk about theoreticals and project and predict. And that's what we're going to do and try and keep it entertaining for you guys. And I have to mention this, Texas does technically have a basketball game tomorrow. So if they win, if Texas gets ranked, we will talk about basketball because they have beaten 2 ranked teams in a row. So if they beat Ole Miss on the road tomorrow in the Chris Beard Bowl, we will talk about college basketball. Thank you to Texas Homer. Thank you to all our callers. Follow Inside Texas on Instagram. We're about to break 45,000 followers. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Thanks for calling in. Appreciate you all. And please subscribe. It helps us out. And then I can stop broadcasting from my little brother's room and maybe get into a studio one day. Thank you guys so much. God bless. Like and subscribe. Share the video with friends. And God bless. Thank you. Have a good night.